That's the doorbell at Jimmy's house. Now, when you come to my house, my doorbell sounds like this.
Hey, you're listening to the People's Weekly on peoplesradiounited.com. I'm Tim Best Buds. I'm here with St. Louis Gale, Steve Shagwell, and Top 100 right now. Bannon's gone, you guys. That's what it's looking like, right?
I thought it goes.
I didn't hear you. You broke up.
I said I thought he'd go sooner.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to happen, but I knew he was going to go. Hopefully Trump and Pence and Gorka and Miller and all them go too. I don't think that's a possibility in reality, but for right now, but it's a dream I have.
I think everybody on the show has that dream. Well, anybody with a heart that's pumping has that dream. Get them out of here and never let them come back.
Yep. So yeah, real quickly, today's show, I guess we're gonna do all about Charlottesville, the domestic terrorism, and just a bunch of things in that same kind of category. So real quick, does anyone have anything they want to promote or bring up that they're working on right now?
I'll go if you want. I've got a feeling Sunday's show is going to be about anti-Nazi. It's just an inkling, but I reckon that's where it's heading.
You're probably right.
That and Bannon, but yeah, optimistic terrorism is definitely on the menu for Sunday.
That's an important op, in my opinion. You know, I hate Nazis and it's personal, but even if I didn't, well, I can't ever see me not hating Nazis, but even if it wasn't personal, I would still say this op is extremely important. We can't let these Nazis keep growing and getting bigger and white supremacy taking like a hold where it's marching on the streets and causing terror attacks.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll go next. Or go ahead, Nolan.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. First off, I'd like to send my thoughts and prayers to everybody in India. At least 250 people are already dead. 11 million people affected by these horrible floods caused by heavy monsoon rains, and also to my brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone. Over 400 people have already died. Over 100 children have died due to mudslides. So if anybody wants to keep denying climate change, please don't make any decisions for any other human beings in an important position, because this climate change thing is about as serious as it can get, and we have so many people in power who are spending millions of dollars or being paid millions of dollars to deny it, and it's getting people killed. And of course, the people I just mentioned are people of color.
Yeah. You know, so much stuff going on with terror attack in Charlottesville and Barcelona and this insanity with the presidency right now. People don't even really notice all these tragedies going on that aren't terror related right now. And
3 people died in Charlottesville. We're talking 11 million people affected in India right now.
That's the United States media for you right there.
Indeed.
Focusing on what's sensational instead of what's, you know, important. I mean, Nazis taking over our country is important as well, but they're major mainstream international news organizations. They should be able to cover a whole lot of things. And they have a 24-hour cycle that runs the basic same 1 or 2 hours all day over and over and over again. Get with it. Y'all making so much money. Get some real reporters out there and journalists all over the world handling everybody. It's not really that hard when you're that wealthy and big of an organization. It seems like a choice.
I'd like to know when the media will start similar attribution for attacks between ISIS or ISIS affiliates and white nationalists and Nazis. They're resorting to the same tactics now. Why are there not parallels being drawn in the media for these two extremist groups?
You know what? I did a show yesterday with optimistic terrorism with Def from Anani Info, and we kind of touched on that a lot. And what he said was really valid. He said that the white people in the United States refuse to look at other white people as terrorists, and when it's somebody darker or with another religion, it separates them from it in a way, and it makes them, oh, they're the terrorists, but those people are too much like me to call them a terrorist, because I might be calling myself a terrorist, you know? That's what his take on it kind of was.
Yeah, and I think that you'll find that's just kind of human nature, you know. People, I think, probably, you know, if you go over to the Middle East, there's probably a lot of people. There's people over there probably calling us terrorists and don't really consider, you know, the Taliban terrorists. You know, it's. I think you're going to find that when you go different places. It's a sad part of the human condition that, you know, hopefully we can start overcoming. I mean, there is no difference between a white supremacist running down a crowd of people and, you know, when the same thing happened, I think it happened in London, was it? Somebody affiliated with ISIS ran down a bunch of people with a vehicle. You know, they're the exact same thing.
Yep, London, France, Germany, and yesterday evening, Spain as well. It's a common fear tactic by Islamic fundamentalists, and now it's your white Christian fundamentalists in the US have taken the what do they call it? Taken the banner, if you like. Not banner.
There was one in London as well, where it was a white fundamentalist who ran through Muslims, if I recall.
Yeah, you know, it's been one of the most frustrating things with me when, you know, on my personal Facebook, you know, I see these articles being shared where they're talking about, you know, Islamic terror. We need to say Islamic terror. And I'm like, yes, we absolutely do. You know, there is a segment of the Islamic community that are terrorists, but we also need to talk about Christian terror, white Christian terror, because there's a segment that are doing that. I live in Kansas. In the last year, the FBI has foiled 2 bomb plots by white supremacist Christians, you know, in my backyard. So that's a thing too. And I don't mind people talking about Islamic terror because it's a thing. But I get mad when people talk about Islamic terror and they don't talk about white Christian terror. You know, because then it seems to me you're not really concerned about terrorism. You're more of a racist, whether you think you are or not.
Well, we also had the bomb. I'm sorry. You also had the bomb plot, though, on Saturday in Oklahoma City that was disrupted by a white supremacist who idolized Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah, I would like to say, as Gal's pointed out before on the show, only 25% of Arab people in the United States are Muslim, and outside of 9/11 and the San Bernardino shooting, where is your Islamic terror in the United States versus the white Christian terror, which is about as big as Trump's ego every single day since Christopher Columbus stepped on to the Caribbean. So if you're in Europe, that's a different story. If you're in Europe, yes, Islamic terror is very serious. But also there you have to know the root of the problem. You have these Western powers continuing to bomb Arab people in the Middle East, trying to bomb them into submission. and they're human beings as well. And the children, they're young men, young women. If I'm being bombed over and over again simply because I'm Arab and there may be a terrorist somewhere around here, I'm probably going to get a little angry. And some people will get more angrier than others, and some people will let the anger get the best of them and join a terrorist organization. And you could, go to check out the United States right here when someone gets pushed too far. Yeah, they will do something stupid. So, and there aren't bombs being dropped on a daily basis here, so you can kind of tell how extreme of a line that has been pushed farther and farther with these people that they have to deal with every day.
Well, yeah, I've been screaming this from the mountaintops for a long time. The U.S., if the U.S. wants to combat terrorism, effectively, the first thing we need to do is stop running a foreign policy that assumes that other people in other parts of the world don't react to shit the same way we would. Because if you're sitting there in your village, there was a drone strike on your village, and you're sitting there and you've got friends and family dead, or you're, in Europe or you're in America and you have friends or family in said village and they're dead, because of a drone strike, and then you have people coming along, like the Taliban or ISIS or whatever, and they're saying, we can help you get revenge on the people who did this to you, who caused you this pain, who caused all this death. What are you going to do? Who are you going to listen to? The U.S. or are you going to listen to these people? Human nature, you're probably going to listen to the people who, have the same cultural background as you and didn't do the drone strike. And that I think is a big reason why we have this problem. It's kind of reasonable for people to be very upset when you bomb their village, come into their country, start screwing with things, prop up dictators, brutal dictators. When you do these things, it's actually kind of reasonable to expect people to get radicalized from that.
In that case, the native people should be like bombing everything.
Yeah. I wonder daily why native and black people aren't killing us in our sleep. Because good God, look at what's happened to them.
I said that the other day. I said, if you're a native and black person and you don't hate white people, you should be given a medal because of all the shit that we have to put up from white people on a daily basis. And I'll say the same thing for women. Any woman who doesn't hate a man deserves a medal. Any gay person who doesn't hate straight people deserves a medal. Any trans person who doesn't hate cis people, I give them a medal. Disabled people to able-bodied people. It's just the way we treat people in Western society is just wrong. It's so wrong. It's just heartless how we treat people who are different, and then the conditioning that we're all under of any creed, what we're taught to dislike, and how we treat them. And we have a presidency which it's on all those things, all those people I just mentioned. If you're not wealthy, I'll also say wealthy to the poor to wealthy. If you're not a wealthy, cis, straight, white male, you're in a little bit of trouble in this administration. And you've always been in some trouble, but now you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something really important there. And I being a white male, I have lots of white male friends who love to talk about how they don't do these things that are attributed to white male culture. And that may be true, but the fact of the matter is, we stand by and let our culture do this to other cultures, whether we're not doing it ourselves or not. It does make us a part of it, and we don't say anything because it doesn't really affect us, and we just go around, like on an individual level, we might treat black people and women with respect, but the fact of the matter is there is a thing in white male culture as a whole that still looks down on women, still looks down on black people, and, it's maybe more watered down than it used to be, but it's still there. And these, not all white people or not all men people need to realize that. And I really feel strongly that we need to be starting to do a better job of holding those who perpetuate this accountable and calling them out.
Yeah, my philosophy on that is anyone who says some racist shit, even if it's small, shame them. Everyone around them should shame them. And if they do it again, bust their lip. And if they do it a third time, break their fucking jaw. They won't be saying it for a while.
I'm with you on that.
I can't disagree with that, and I'm not normally a violent person, but if you piss somebody off enough, you're going to have to expect retribution. And persecution of a race, I think, is enough to piss you off.
Well, let's face it, we're here today with Charlottesville and, now, 18 white supremacy rallies going down in cities across the country this weekend, I heard. We're at this point because we didn't punch enough Nazis.
Because we didn't mow down enough Nazis with AKs and Molotovs. That's what I think.
Well,
I've just posted a fantastic meme in the chat, guys. It's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, there you go. That you got the I think it's like one of the number one photos from the hate rally in Charlottesville with the tiki torches, and then they're saying "Hungry, grab a Snickers," and then they turn into a bunch of very, very muscle-bound, shirtless dudes in a gay pride parade.
Yeah, it's a gay pride loving after a Snickers. That's all they need. They just need a bit of love.
If only it were that easy. That would be great. Well, I just heard that a 60-year-old man was just murdered by the New Jersey Police Department after he allegedly, and this is the cop saying this, he was holding a knife and he lunged at them.
A knife?
And this is a 60-year-old man. So obviously the mobility is not what it used to be for him. And these are cops who are trained with deadly weapons. So they decided just to kill him. And he died in the hospital. And it's a 60-year-old man. Apparently the reason they were called knife-wielding guy, allegedly, and a woman who he stabbed, 54, is in the hospital, stable condition. But they killed him because they can't shoot him in the leg. Now, whether he deserved to be shot or not, if he did stab somebody, that's obviously not good. But this goes back to the whole, you can't just shoot them in the leg. You can't shoot them in the arm. You can't shoot them in the shoulder. Kneecap. We see it all the time in the movies. That you shoot somebody in the kneecap because it's really painful. You can't do that. But then again, the cops are trained to kill us. And this guy's name was Leroy. I'll just leave it at that. And they are trained to kill you, especially if your skin is a little darker.
You know, United States police are the biggest cowards in the universe. Like, let me ask Top. How many people wield knives and get blown away by your police unloading clip after clip into them?
I don't think we get above 10 deaths by police officer a year. Gal will probably have better figures than me. She compares regular.
Yeah, but my point is, a knife. People pull knives there all the time, and they don't get blown away by police. These police see a knife, and I know this guy stabbed somebody, whatever. But I've seen things where just a homeless, mentally ill man pulls a knife, and he's 20 feet away on a different ledge. You know what I mean? He's up on a different platform than the police. They're on a different. He's in a raised parking lot, and they're on the street, and they still blow him away. He was not even a threat to him.
I'm not being funny, but you got quite a high proportion of pets get shot by trigger fucking happy police officers. Mm-hmm. Everything gets shot. It's like America's like Australia. In Australia, all the wildlife can kill you. It doesn't matter what type. It could be a plant. It could be a lizard. Fucking dingo. Kangaroos are quite vicious as well. So all animal can kill you. In America, it doesn't matter what you are. A cop's going to shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought up the thing about people's pets because, you know, it's gotten to a point now where you can have a non-aggressive dog. You can have a yard with a fence so the dog stays in the yard, and you can have a sign up that says there is a dog in the yard, you know, and even still, that's no longer a guarantee that cops won't just walk into your yard and shoot your dog.
Yeah.
Over a stupid reason, no less.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it has me scared. You know me, I'm quick to pull a camera on the police every time I see them and usually use my mouth to insult them any way I can. But when I have Olive with me and we're walking, Olive's my dog for anyone who doesn't know, I'll let the police have somebody pull them over and I'll just keep moving because I worry about her safety. Like, it's that serious.
And that's a very valid concern because now we're seeing, you know, we've seen some video where cops shot somebody's dog and the person wasn't even a suspect. And then they, you know, they're kind of like high-fiving each other and stuff afterwards, you know. So, like, I'm quite sure we're going to see, because things continue to snowball with law enforcement right now. Things are continuing to snowball. I'm pretty sure we're not that far away from where some cops just shoot your dog because they can, and they love seeing the pain it causes you.
We're already there with dogs and people, Steve.
Yeah, but, you know, I think we're just headed towards a place where, you know, like standards for outrage just continue to drop, and I don't understand it. You know, people get less outraged over more brazen behavior with every passing year, and it's like Stockholm syndrome or something. You know.
Well, and it's misplaced, and then there's the deflection taking away from things that you should be outraged by. It's the deflection, like getting upset over monuments of demonic people being torn down, or cops being killed, even though kindergartners are less safe than police officers if there's a gun involved. Go ahead.
You bring up a fantastic point there. It's I've just posted this a short while ago. While we are not ashamed of our great-great-grandfather, we are ashamed to benefit from white supremacy while our black family and friends suffer. We are ashamed of the monument. And that's William and Warren Christian. They're descendants of Stonewall Jackson. So it's a relic of history that people are ashamed of. There's no pride there. It's just out and out racism and hate. It's not protecting heritage.
Well, technically, it is protecting heritage because it's protecting white supremacist heritage, and that's the thing people will, even now are failing to admit with Trump, which they did during the election to also deflect from the point that Hillary is one too. He is a white supremacist. He is what America really means. The thing is, in modern times, especially with the internet, you're not supposed to admit that. You're not supposed to say the things that they say when we're not around. But the fact he's saying it, that's the problem. Because then you have more of an uprising, which you've seen, the monuments being, torn down, or more of a call to take them all down. And then now they're tripping over themselves, especially Trump and his people. We're going to take George Washington down? It's like, yeah, why not? He's worse than Robert E. Lee by tenfold. Of course. Why is he already up? Why is he up in the first place?
Well, this whole thing about statues and preserving history, I've been hearing a lot of this going around that the Confederacy was not the Civil War was not actually the Confederacy rebelling because of slavery. It was a Confederacy rebelling because of things the federal government was doing. And I started researching that because I really wanted to know if that was true. And what I'm finding out is no. And next week I will actually bring some, because I just started researching this. So next week I'll bring some of the stuff I'm reading. We're talking about articles of incorporation. We're talking about resolutions. They all refer to slavery and preserving slavery and why slavery needs to be preserved, and that this is the reason that we have to secede from the Union. Those things are just like blatantly written by the Confederate States, and next week I will bring them so that there can be no doubt on this issue that the Civil War was about slavery and the Confederacy wanted to preserve slavery, and that's why they did this.
Exactly. There's not even a dispute about that. It's just the stupid racists always make up alt history is what they do, and it's some pseudo history they go by, and they all seem to believe it. The fact of the matter is, it was all about slavery, and it was a bunch of poor white idiots fighting so the rich white idiots could keep their slaves and profit off them.
Yeah, people say, why would most of the Confederate soldiers didn't own slaves. Why would they want to fight for the right to own slaves if they didn't own slaves? Well, the answer to that is really simple, and it's for the same reason today that white people don't, too many white people don't want to acknowledge the racism we have today, which, yes, is more subtle than in previous years, or was until this last couple years. They don't want to acknowledge it because the fact of the matter is we have a preferred status in this society. We're still, poor white people are still towards the bottom, but they're definitely above poor black people and poor Hispanic people and, I dare say even poor Arab people. And
Native people, yeah.
Sure, everybody wants to be further up the ladder, but if you've got a spot on the ladder where people are below you, you tend to be okay with preserving that because it's just human nature. So that's why the soldiers in the Confederacy, even though they were poor and didn't have slaves, were willing to uphold it, because when you have people in a lower category than you, which chattel slavery definitely is, you kind of want to keep it that way.
Well, here's the Confederate States of America, or the Confederacy, whatever the hell you want to call it. Their Constitution, and this is Article 4, Section 3, Line 3. In all such territory, the institution of Negro slavery, as it now exists in the Confederate States, shall be recognized and protected by Congress and by the territorial government. And the inhabitants of the several Confederate states and territories shall have the right to take such territory, any slaves lawfully held by them in any of the states or territories of the Confederate States. So there it is in plain English, like you were saying.
Gail, what do you probably have a lot of information in this regard, being a professor and all.
Is Gail still here? Let me check. Yeah, I don't hear her right now.
Well,
I'm here, but you're just gonna have to give me like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. We can do that.
Well, as you were just saying, it was there in plain English. If we had a time machine, we would have seen that the Confederacy was fighting for the institution of slavery to continue, just like the colonies and the new United States were fighting to keep slavery. The English wanted to do away with it in a little too slowly, but they were phasing it out. And the same thing with Western expansion, aka native genocide. This is too bloody. It's too much. We already have enough land. I mean, the UK is massive. And the Americans are like, hell no, do you know how much money we're making off of this? You know how much land is out west? We hate these people too. So there's a lot of that false history, whitewashed history. And that's, I'll say this I say it all the time. I'll continue to say it. That's why we have such a racist country, and we've always had one, because you're taught all these lies, and you're taught that America is of God and is protected by God and never does anything wrong.
I'm really committed right now to getting that truth out about the Confederacy, because there is this thing going around, and like I can think of a friend that I have who is like literally, when I point out something about racism, he is the first to jump in with me and be like, yeah, racism is a thing and we need to do something about it. And he's like right there defending GLBT and rights and right there, he's the first one to denounce racism and say we still have a real problem with it. But he lives in the southern states, and he thinks that the Civil War was not about slavery, that it did not start because of slavery. And there's a lot of people out there who think that, we really need to push that and get that out there, that no, this is actually what it's about, because there are some decent people who love the Confederate flag because they think it was not about slavery, and like I said,
I don't buy that shit. That's a cop-out, dude. They all know it was about slavery. They're full of shit. They're racist. They want to hang on to their bullshit racist flag. It's not really that hard. They pass this fake history around so they can feel good about themselves. It doesn't take anything but opening a fucking book or going online to see how much bullshit it is. You can hand that shit to them all day on a silver platter and say, look, I'm proving this to you. They're not going to give a shit. I can tell you that right now, dude. I've dealt with these pieces of shit before.
Well, maybe. I want to push it out there anyway, because a lot of people in our country, when it comes to issues, they don't bother to research stuff. They just take what people tell them and assume it's true a lot of the time, and I think that's also part of how we got to where we are today.
Do you realize there's a bunch of these same people going around talking about slavery wasn't that bad?
Yeah, that one just sticks in my frickin' craw. And there is a what do you call it, a skit or a flashback? I don't know. It's something on Family Guy. It's like from season 3. Stewie, the baby, and the dog are at Gettysburg. And a black guy comes up, and he's just taking pictures, minding his own business. Stewie says to the brother, he says, "You're welcome." And then the black guy's like, "Excuse me?" And then Stewie's like, oh, well, the heavy price we paid for you guys, getting you free and everything, you're welcome. And then the black guy's like, considering the 200 years before that, I think we're about even. And then Stewie goes, no, we gave more. Now, the whole freaking clip is just awful. Because one, you have a white person or a baby, whatever, saying that they should be just lauded and honored and thanked for saving us, quote unquote, even though they're the one who's enslaved us in the first place. And then the black guy says, we're even. Slave owners got reparations. We didn't. And then, of course, and this is what everybody forgets, I give, as problematic as the Shawnee coach is, because he's very anti-native, he is a very smart person, and I give him credit for this. He wrote a long think piece about the case for reparations for black people. And he said the truth. He said, okay, yeah, slavery was the worst, but then after that, you have Jim Crow, you have Reaganomics, you have, the crime bill, everything we're going through right now. I mean, the bill for America and plus the European countries that started this is pretty freaking high. But then when you go back to slavery, they cut our balls off. They cut our ears off. They raped our little girls. Thomas freaking Jefferson, 5 kids with a underage slave. It was, whether you believe in hell or not, it was as close to actually being in hell as you could get without being in Satan's house. And the government has never said, given an actual apology, we're sorry. They haven't paid us back for, along with the native people, for building their country for them. And that just keeps getting pushed farther and farther back. Or even a black president, there's no racism. I mean, if you've ever been mistreated in any way by anybody, and that person doesn't apologize to you, you're probably going to be upset. And then, if they mistreat you again and pretend they didn't do anything the first time, and then they tell you, well, what I'm doing wasn't that bad. It's not that bad. You're going to get really angry. And that's the problem we have right now.
You're right. And, I'm mystified by the fact that chattel slavery is I hear people playing it down all the time, and I think how the hell do you downplay the significance of chattel slavery? I mean, they were whipping people, they were working people to death, they were breaking up families, they were, they even took black babies and used them as alligator bait. Yeah. Like, this was not a thing of where they made people work, and every once in a while, if somebody fucked up, they whipped them. They whipped them because they wanted to. You didn't have to do really anything wrong to wind up getting whipped. A lot of these black women who were in slavery were raped. I mean, chattel slavery is not a watered down thing. It's not, it's absolute barbarism. It's absolute cruelty. And I have to wonder about you have to be a psychopath to think that shit's okay. I'm sorry, but like, if you think that shit was not all that bad, you're a fucking psychopath, and stay the fuck away from me, because I don't want you anywhere near me or the people I love, because you're a psychopath. And
well, the the problem I've had here and there as I've continued to navigate my way on stolen land as a colonized person, I know every person in this country is lied to from birth about how this country was formed and all the things that still happen. And I know the science says at least 67% of white people are racist. And I know all of them are taught that they're better than us and they have to recondition their brain to think correctly and respectfully to other people. But that's where I start having trouble, because it's like, well, how much leeway should I give them versus I have to deal with my own pain? Should I even pay them any attention or give them any chances, because I have to survive each day trying to fight for my people and help, we're trying to get free here after all 5 centuries. And that's the issue. I mean, one thing that freaks me out, and I'm half white, so half my family is white, is because I was so whitewashed. I had mostly white friends, but private schools. I didn't really talk about race too much with my family, other than my father, because he was a Black Panther and I just wanted to learn as much as I could from him. But my 2 grandparents on my mom's side, white, they voted for Reagan twice. And these were the nicest people in the history of the world. They would do anything for you. They spoiled me and my sister and my little brother rotten. But then looking back, just from the race standpoint, that's troubling. My grandmother graduated college. She went to now it's a Pac-12 school. She was a school teacher. So it's not like she wasn't educated. So how in the world, and then you moved to California and you're there for a bunch of years, how in the world did you vote for Ronald Reagan twice? How does that happen? So it's tricky. It's as I said, it's tricky. But anybody who wants to call a white person who says those types of things, demonic or a psychopath or what have you, I can't blame you, because it's a horrible thing to say. I mean, I always go back to the Holocaust, because I've said it 100 times on the show. It's the only genocide Western society recognizes ever happened. If someone said that about the Holocaust, they would be yelled at for the next 2 hours by everyone that heard what they said. But because of racism and whitewashing, if you talk about slavery that way, if you talk about Native genocide, or what we're still going through right now as 2 people in this country, it's not nearly the same, and you may even be agreed with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they always say, just get over it already. It's ridiculous.
And plus, again, how do you get over something that's still happening?
And realize the people who are saying get over it are many times carrying Confederate or Nazi flags. They haven't gotten over that. Their asses getting kicked in a war, 2 wars. You know what I mean? But get over all the oppression your ancestors faced that still affects you to this very day. Get over that.
Yeah, there's so many hard statistics, different entities with different agendas. When they study this, they come to the same conclusion. Unless there's some kind of alt-right propaganda think tank, they come to the same conclusion when it comes to racism. Even the FBI admits that Black people are less likely to be caught with contraband, but more likely to be arrested for contraband. And that's without even scratching the surface. This shit is definitely still happening today, and all it takes is 15 minutes with Google to figure out that Like this is the thing a lot of different entities agree on when they study this.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's crap. But what do you guys think about the fact that our dear great leader Trump decided to condone the terrorist attack by these Nazis in Charlottesville, but yet as soon as the thing in Barcelona happened, he condemned it on Twitter like immediately. He seemed to have all the facts of a terrorist attack in another country, but still hasn't had all the facts of the one that happened in his own country.
Yeah, and that was his reasoning, wasn't it, for not condemning the Charlottesville attacks right away?
Yeah,
I was waiting for
that was
information.
sarcasm.
They say that every time. If any of us are in trouble, they go, "Wow, we need more facts." I mean, that's what they. This is what they do with women, and I mean, all this. I'm telling, all this stuff is connected in this country. All the bigotry, sexism, racism, transphobia, the whole thing. Same hand is dishing it out. But that's what they say about women. When a woman is raped, they will flip over backwards to try to get her to say, "No, it didn't happen. I'm sorry, I made it up." Just to try to pretend it didn't happen. Well, we need more facts. We need you to pay for the rape kit. And Trump is, with Trump, I just wish he'd be honest. I like this Trump much better than the kumbaya BS. Like, oh, racism's wrong. We know. Come on, we know you like racism. You're racist. We know you loved what happened the weekend before in Charlottesville. Just say that. Just come on. I mean, I hate it when racists pretend they're not racist. It drives me crazy. Give me. Wow. I won't say it like that, but in terms of the verbiage, give me Donald over Hillary every time, because at least I know what I'm getting. And if my eyes aren't trained, I can see what Donald's about to do. I can't see what Hillary's about to do. I can see what the right's going to do. I can't see what the left's going to do to us. I just wish he'd be honest.
I have a couple things to add to that now that I can actually talk. Sorry about that. For the first thing you were just talking about, Nolan, it's techniques of neutralization is what you were really going with trying to get a woman to admit that she was not raped, or blaming the victim, or there are actually 5 separate techniques that humans use in order to legitimize their behavior to themselves. Not really, they'll say it out loud to other people, but it doesn't have to make sense to you. It's to themselves. And my God, Trump is just the epitome of all 5. And I'm not going to give a lecture on them, but that's part of something that we're taught when it comes to, having these people who are very obviously racist, but then turn around and say, "I'm not racist." They have been taught that since day one. They have been taught that if you don't use the N-word and if you're not lynching someone, you're not racist. And they completely ignore all the facts or all of their own behavior when pointed out. They play the victim complex that is more so played by the majority population in this country, white Christian males, straight males, than anybody else. But they're the first one to call everybody else snowflakes, right? And it's just absolutely amazing to see. But they have been convinced and socialized to believe that as long as they don't use the N-word, or as long as they don't use this word or that word, then they're not racist. And that's colorblind racism at its core. And we really see it pick up in the mid-'70s, and we're teaching children who are now adults, of course, who are then teaching their children the same thing. The idea that if we didn't talk about race in this country, that it would go away, that we fixed everything with the civil rights movement, when really all we did was silence people and kill people and intimidate people to get them to, get to where we were by the end of the 60s. And that is our biggest issue when it comes to this, because you do have an entire group of people who do not believe that what they're doing is racist. No matter how many times you can show them, okay, and even talking to them in their terms and being not sympathetic's not really the word, but having a decent conversation. We know arguing doesn't work. We know yelling at one another doesn't work. And as a teacher, I can tell you this is something that I talk about every single day. And you're always going to have people who are going to say, well, this, or this. And it's just trying to educate them. But that's where our biggest problem also comes in at right now. They don't want to be educated. The facts don't matter. The experts are wrong. Like, the only thing that's right is what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. And today, a survey came out. 6 in 10 Trump supporters say that they will never, ever, 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 ever stop supporting him. And that was their words. Never, ever, ever. There's nothing that man can do. So for those 6 out of 10, there is literally nothing that is going to change their mind. It's a cult. It is a legit cult. And so we have to figure out at what point do we stop. And I don't generally do this anyway. You have this group of, whether it's liberals, the left, or even moderates who are like, we have to reach out to them, we have to talk to them. They don't want to be talked to. What do we do? How do we fix this? It's 26% of the voting population that even voted for him. So that's getting into a whole nother subject, but I just wanted to kind of really hit on, looking at the details and the statistics and the facts that we have. But one of our biggest issues is this, experts know nothing. Everybody's an expert on the internet. And I just bought a book today called Death of Expertise. I haven't got to read it yet, but it's looking at this phenomenon. And it's not new. Anti-intellectualism has been a thing in the United States since before McCarthyism, and it started to grow again in the early 90s. And it's just consistently gone. And we see that with talk radio, Rush Limbaugh, Savage, Hannity on Fox, all that. That has led to where it's as bad as it is now. But
it's got Top Gear Live in that, Gal.
What?
I said you forgot Top Gear Live in that.
Well, it works there, yeah.
The world is a much worse place with Top Gear Live in it.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Gal, because that is a big thing, is this kind of conditioning, the way people are brought up. If you don't say this or this, and you're not out lynching, you're not a racist. Because I was brought up that way. And I was also brought up to believe, Martin Luther King has always been one of my favorite people, but I was fed a big misperception when it came to him, and that misperception was that Martin Luther King ended all the discrimination and stuff, and we don't have that problem anymore. So we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to think about that. And, if you see black people bringing this up, they're getting bent out of shape over nothing. Like, I was conditioned with that. And really, until police brutality happened to me, I didn't really understand otherwise that, no, there is a really big problem. When the cops brutalized me and I got into police brutality activism, well, of course, because this disproportionately affects black people, then, I got exposure to this problem. But that's a big thing that's going on in white America, is a lot of people don't think they're racist, because though they might cross the street, if they see black people dressed like modern black people walking towards them, they don't think they're racist, because they would never go up to those people and call them the N-word.
Right. And they're the first ones to say, I'm not racist, I have black friends. And I tell my students for years, I've told them that right there is racist as hell. Now you're judging your friends by is that your token friend, so that you can use that terminology? Stephen Colbert used to do, when he ran, when he was on the Colbert Report, he used to do this regularly. He would talk about his one black friend, and he was doing it for that purpose. To show, and as we, anybody who watched the Colbert Report know that a large section of the right didn't realize it was satire. But you do hear these all the time, or, I like this individual, I can't be racist. And we've talked about the stats before on here, 50% of white people never come in contact with somebody who isn't white in this country. And so all they have is what's on TV and what they hear.
And all you have on TV is white people, and more white people.
Right.
They're trying to make another How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, dear God. We're not going down this path. We need to have a whole show where me and Nolan just discuss.
We really do.
Because this is what we do through the week we're texting one another. Watching this show. Look at this.
I saw 2 black
Get a
people
life,
the
y'all.
whole season. It's self-care, Tim. I mean, we got to do something. We got to do something.
Yeah, I feel you.
We don't play golf. We don't bowl. We got to do something.
Movies with Nolan and Gel on People's Radio. That's the next show coming up.
Let's do it.
We could do it.
You know what? But back to Steve's point, that made me think. You know, a lot of these really, really racist white people immediately invoke the name of Martin Luther King Jr. like he was the guy. You know what I mean? He was their guy. He was the one that stood up and did everything. But they don't realize that people exactly like them, maybe even their ancestors, thought of him as the most evil, terrible thing to plague the United States, and they fought him every step of the way. He wasn't beloved by the white people back then. They don't seem to know their history about that either.
75% of white people really, really did not like him. That's an actual stat. That's how many white people did not like him at the time.
They disliked him so much that they killed him.
Yeah. Well, and people, I mean, again, this is whitewashing. This is why we have these problems in the first place. He was anti-American. He was an anti-capitalist. And you have Republicans, like you guys just said, using him as an argument to why you should calm down and not be so belligerent and all this stuff. I mean, he generalized white people. He was against capitalism. He was against war. He was against the United States, which is, like you said, Tim, this is why they killed him. And yet, that's not what you hear. Even with Malcolm X, and this drives me crazy. When you have more overt racists, Republicans or conservatives, Tea Party, alt-white, whatever, they'll go, well, Malcolm X, he told you how bad Democrats are. Because anytime, a conservative or someone like that hears us talking the way we talk, they assume we're a Democrat because we're not one of them. But the Democrats, so he said they were so bad. Yeah, he said the Republicans were horrible too. They're always taking part of what somebody says, or erasing it, or whitewashing it, or recycling. It's just, until the whole truth is told, we're not, this stuff is going to continue. We have one of the most fabricated elections in the history of time of any country. You had 2 of the biggest liars on the planet going back and forth, who were in they're friends. Donald and Hillary are friends. Their children have hung out together. I remember growing up. You do not, if you have kids, you don't spend that much time with somebody else's kids, unless the parents are friends with each other. And yet everyone's like, oh well, they're so different. They're so different. No, they're not. They just have a tag in front of them: Republican and Democrat.
Yeah, I get that all the time. I'll start arguing with some Republican racist person, and immediately I get the little hashtags, lock her up, Hillary for prison, I'm not with her, Hillary Clinton, or whatever. And then I nicely inform them I feel the same way. I'm an anarchist. And then all of a sudden it's like I'm the most evil thing. Hillary Clinton's better than me even. and at the same time, they don't know what the hell an anarchist is.
They think anarchists are leftists. They think there's just like one school of thought in anarchism, and it's leftism. And it's absolutely ridiculous because that's not it. Plenty of anarchists hate socialism just as much as they hate capitalism. Why? Because it's government. And I do laugh a little when I hear all these supposedly anti-government patriots talk about how bad anarchists are. Well, you say you're anti-government, and then you want to slander and dismiss the people who actually are anti-government. What the fuck?
Well, because the values that someone like Tim, for example, has don't coincide with theirs. Their anti-government is leave as much power to white people as humanly possible, men as humanly possible, and we'll go from there. And just like stay out of our lives, government. But at the same time, make sure gay people don't get married. But that bigotry and racism are illogical. They never make any sense. You can't look at bigotry and racism from a logical viewpoint, because
these small government people, it's I don't get it, because they want a small government, they say, but yet they want government to be able to stick its nose in our lives and dictate whether or not we have the right to be gay. I mean, how the hell are you going to enforce that without a government agency? It literally means you're going to expand government. And for that matter, the drug war. I mean, Jesus Christ, you want to talk about expansion of government? The drug war has done so much to enable that. I don't really like Jesus Christ, the level of denial you have to be one of those people, level of self-denial is just ridiculous.
They also want to be able to make sure I can't have any birth control whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. But Viagra, please have that in stock all the time, even though that could create a pregnancy. Huh?
Yeah.
There's an $80+ million spend on hard-on problem products for the U.S. military alone.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Well, you guys have got a conservative Republican government in. We've got a conservative government in, and I'm not saying it didn't happen under the Democrats, but for a party and a country that really doesn't like a big government, your fucking military is massive. The largest in the world. It's growing larger than any other military on the planet.
Exactly, Top. Exactly. And the same people that hate big government seem to love the police and military.
War is the health of the state.
Yeah, that's true. I just heard there was a warship that crashed and killed a bunch of Americans, and this is recent.
Yep.
And the guy, the head, the captain of this ship, is like highly decorated. My brain is breaking when I heard that was breaking. When I heard that, wait a minute? You're spending billions of dollars on the dang ship. You're spending millions of dollars to train these people to, run the ship, drive the ship, and that you kill your own people. How does that even happen? It's one thing, misappropriation of funds and too much military, but it's another thing where you can't train people correctly. Was he drunk? I mean, it.
Well, the leading officer on that ship, funnily, I'm surprised this has been mentioned today, but he's been relieved of duty, and two of his serving commanders or officers or whatever have also been removed from duty. That just was on the radio today, in fact, so that's a massive coincidence. But for those that don't know, the actual incident happened in Japanese waters on June the 17th. The 7 people were killed in an incident where the destroyer, the USS Fitzgerald, smashed into a Filipino container vessel called the ACX Crystal. Now, the problem with that is the collision occurred with the cargo ship despite warnings.
Wow. I remember that now that you said when it was.
There were warnings being given, and it carried on course and crashed, and 7 crewmen were killed.
I just don't understand how that happens.
Because they don't give a shit about them. See, I would argue, as much as I talk shit, the veterans do not fight for my rights, my freedom of speech, or any of that while they're invading other countries. I fully believe that I support veterans more than the so-called patriots and the U.S. government, because saying thank you for your service and sending them out to die for corporations' money, that doesn't seem like support to me. You know, they come back, they can't get health care, they're mentally ill, they're homeless. That's not support for veterans. You know what I mean? Support for veterans is saying don't send people off to die in wars for bullshit reasons.
And afterwards, compensate them, for goodness sake. You're absolutely right.
So all these people saying I'm terrible and I don't support veterans can all go fuck themselves, because if you agree that they should be going fighting unjust wars for rich people's money, then you don't support the veterans. Point blank. That's how I feel.
I can't blame you for that. I mean, especially because nearly all of the wars that the U.S. have been in have been horrible ideas. They've either been genocidal, or actually I think all of them have been genocidal, but or just a bad strategical error. Iraq war, oil money, bunch of war crimes. Vietnam, just stupid bunch of war crimes. I'll use the word war in air quotes. Any war with the native nation, complete genocide. So yeah, I mean the military complex itself is pure evil in this country. I do think that a lot of the people who do join and support it blindly, but mainly the people who join, they don't either know any better, it's the only way out, especially speaking from my own people. They put these army recruitment centers in our neighborhood, like pawn shops. And they, people who fight, they really think they're protecting the country, which in fact they're protecting...
Society is socialised as well. I'm sure Gal can testament to this. It's when you're little boys, we played with soldiers and guns in the woods.
Absolutely. Well, and especially the United States, one of the reasons we're so violent is that we have this culture of violence where we're desensitized from violence. And I heard Steve asking a question earlier about, the outrage kind of dying down and things like that. And I didn't have a chance to jump in there, but we're desensitized to it even more and more as it's going on. We do this with mass shootings. We hardly hear about the mass shootings that we have regularly. Probably, I don't even know when the last time you guys may have heard of one, but I know that we are over, I can actually get you the exact number we're at today, sadly. But we were well over 200 last month. And that's just this year alone. We're desensitized. It's not even news anymore when it happens. But we're socialized as well with cowboys versus Indians, right? Or cops versus robbers. We're taught to play these kind of games. It's what we call play stage. And that plays a big part into it.
That's what gets me as well, is we are socialised throughout our childhood. You just mentioned a perfect example there was cowboys and Indians. But also on top of that, because we won the Second World War, it was always the Western or the West against Germany.
Really? Is that what you guys did?
Yeah, it was like...
I never thought about that.
Well, yeah, it was. We grew up. Our television comedies were Dad's Army, a bimbling bunch of old guys. In the Home Guard, and
like
we
Hogan's Heroes too.
Yeah, something along those lines. So we were socialised. You had your cowboys and Indians. We had the Germans, and that's why we still got comedies running on TV now with John Cleese from the 70s and 80s saying, "Don't mention the war when you're with a German" and stuff like that. So we were socialised to think that beating up and fighting Nazis was good.
And it
is.
But
what's gone wrong? That's my point. What's gone wrong?
Yeah, you have the opposite there.
Why is fighting Nazis now?
Just to update what I was saying, 285 mass shootings this year. The last one on the list is from St. Louis. I haven't even heard of this one from yesterday. And two days ago was one in Los Angeles. Had you heard of that one? For you, I know you were in California.
No. And right. Hollywood, 2 people dead, 2 people.
I just gave. And that's the thing. Like we get of course, we only hear what the news tells us, as we always talk about. And there are always ways to find out the actual information, but we don't even really think twice about this type of violence anymore, unless it really depends on who is the victim. For one, generally we only hear whenever it is white people, and it's got to have like a certain. It's like a fucking video game. Like there's got to be a certain amount of people dead before they'll even talk about it. And this is a very common issue within our country. It has been for a very long time. Mass shootings didn't just start with Sandy Hook or Columbine or anything like that. But we don't hear about it. And one of the reasons is because it doesn't get clicks anymore. People aren't interested in it. It doesn't outrage them. What are they, move on to the next thing of what's going to get clicks or what people are going to be outraged about, because they're just normalized into this violence. And one of the ways that has happened is that America's always been at war. And I know I've said it over and over, except for like 17 years since 1776. There's been 17 war-free years, and I guess that could even be debatable.
Yeah, the big story in L.A. the last couple of days has been a police chase where the guy got out naked, I think, climbed up onto a crane in Long Beach or San Pedro and jumped off or fell off to his death. That's been the main story I heard and seen on most of our news. Can we talk about the ACLU? Because that really pissed me the fuck off. Yesterday, I said it on yesterday's show. What happened was they put out a tweet talking about we won't tolerate Nazis and this and that and whatever, and I tweeted back and was like, you supported their terror, so it's too little too late. So they deleted the tweet and unfollowed me.
Well, so overall they came out again, probably, was that today, Tib?
No, this was
earlier.
What happened was in Virginia. The ACLU fought so that the Nazis could march and created the whole thing. That's what pissed me off.
I was asking, though, because today they put out a statement that they have a new policy that they will no longer fight for any kind of protest where there are going to be people with guns. So they're no longer going to go to court for armed protests. And I guess that's their way of because they're getting a hell of a lot of backlash for, as you just said.
But when the Nazis say they're going to show up, and then the Oath Keepers or 3%ers join the Nazi thing, who are Nazis too, and come with guns, they're not going to say, they could just say we don't have guns, and then in an open carry state, there's nothing they can do about it.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I was just saying what their statement today was, what their new quote-unquote policy is. But yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is that Charlottesville did not give that permit to the Nazis. They did not want it there. They fought against it, and the ACLU took it on, and they won the right for them to have their rally. Also, what a lot of people don't realize is that the counter-protesters did have a permit.
They had 2 permits.
Yes, they did have. And, the president said, well, the counter-protesters didn't have permit. They're within the wrong. That's what he said on Tuesday. They did have permits.
This president lies so much.
Yeah, everything that comes out of his mouth, it's a fucking lie. But it was just for anybody who's listening may not realize that they did actually they had permits.
So whatever your president says, the opposite is true. Every
single time. And anytime he accuses somebody of something, it's a projection of himself, which is not a new strategy.
Especially when he's angry.
You guys, hang on. This is a special message just to you, Donald Trump. I know you listen. Just tell the world you're not going to resign. If everything out of his mouth is a lie, I want to hear he's not going to resign. Ever.
That'd be a Frank Underwood move if anybody watches House of Cards. I'm not running.
Excellent.
I don't know any of these references you speak of.
Once I said it, I knew that it was going to go over Tim's head because he's too good to watch television.
I want to go back to ACLU, though, because one of the things that they stated with getting this backlash is that they don't have enough resources to take every case. And I understand that. I want to actually read out Justin Hansford's post from, I think it was Sunday. And Justin Hansford is a lawyer who was at St. Louis University. He was a well-known face in the Ferguson protests. And he actually, I think he's at Harvard now. But he posted this, right, I think it was the next day, and he said, the thing about the ACLU decision to defend the white supremacists is that they routinely refuse to represent people of color in cases of merit. They don't take every single case, they pick and choose. Plenty of people donated to them this year on the idea that they would use those resources to protect the people standing up against white nationalism. Maybe those people deserve a refund. The First Amendment rights of some got defended while the rights of others, including Heather Heyer, were degraded. And that was the most pertinent posts I had seen on the entire ACLU thing, because I've watched them turn down plenty of cases during Ferguson and Baltimore when they said they didn't have the resources to take them. But you can use these resources that you don't have for Nazis and for Milo last week on top of that. And so I've always been a supporter of the ACLU. I'm livid as everybody else is.
Yeah,
they're starting. The divisions are breaking away. California came out and broke away from them.
Yeah,
I'm disillusioned. Also, not just with ACLU, and this may come as a surprise to Gal. But what the fuck is Julian Assange and WikiLeaks doing? Also,
exactly what I told you they were going to do.
There was a Republican met for a number of hours with Julian Assange yesterday. And this Republican is stood outside the Ecuadorian embassy. I don't know if this guy was going in with a Holocaust denier.
Yep.
Oh, gee whiz.
Shocked. I'm just so shocked. Wait, no, I'm not. I've been fucking saying it for a year.
And on top of that, it's come out this week that there was a cache of information given to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange in relation to corruption with the Russian government, and he didn't accept it last year. Now, I know within the activist community, a lot of people are really fucked off with that, and they want answers.
Yeah,
Why was that Russian information not disseminated and distributed?
There was information from Syria as well that wasn't distributed.
Yeah, but much like Trump, Assange has a group of people that deitize him, and he can do no wrong, no matter what it is.
He's a fucking prophet.
Even to question him is just blasphemous.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you guys now. There's people that I know, and put it this way: the same people that have been on the same platform, whether it's remotely or whatever, they are fucked off. They want answers about Russia.
Well, people should want answers because, when an organization that claims to be about transparency and claims to not be about taking sides, literally for years now, only puts out stuff that hurts one side of a discussion and helps another side of the discussion. I mean, the fact of the matter is, WikiLeaks, there can be a talk about how intentional it was, but the fact of the matter is, nobody can deny, WikiLeaks helped the alt-right. Like, if anybody who can't see that is, I'm not even going to try to reason that one out with them. And so, it's very appropriate to be questioning WikiLeaks right now and being like, was this intentional or was it not? Because you cannot deny, like, pretty much everything they do benefits Russia and Trump.
I can't argue that, and I'm a person who has been trying to yell from rooftops about how evil Hillary is for the last 15 years. But Assange and WikiLeaks didn't leak files on both of them.
And they had files on both of them.
Of course they did.
Assange came right out last August and said it.
Yeah, plus it's easier to get files on someone who hasn't been Secretary of State, hasn't been a senator, hasn't been the First Lady for 8 years, than a businessman. I don't care how rich he is. But
I would have gave him my full support. I mean, I used to support WikiLeaks a lot more than I do now. But if they would have taken both sides down together and gave our country a chance at real, actual freedom, and a chance to move ahead where it's the people's choice, I would have there would have been nothing WikiLeaks could do wrong after that. But they chose not to. They chose to pick a side, and they chose to pick a really fascist side. And the thing about it is, if you don't believe it, look no further than who's supporting them right now. The alt-right Nazi scum. The same people that marched and killed people in Charlottesville, beat Dre Harris senseless almost to death in a garage. No one even talks about that hardly.
Still no arrests.
Yeah. People toppled down a statue, a racist Confederate statue. All of them are looking at time in prison. They've already been arrested. But these people on camera beating an actual human being, not one has been arrested as of this moment. It's disgusting to me.
On top of all that, what Trump's doing with the Disrupt J20 website, over 1 million IP addresses he's trying to extract via the Department of Justice, which is causing alarm bells. What the fuck does he plan to do with them? What the fuck is he going to do with 1.2 million people that protested his presidency?
Yep,
he's going to dox them. He's going to dox them to the alt-right.
He might.
He's done that, though. I mean, I've seen people get completely, who have been doxed by him, be completely torn apart, have to leave their jobs because I think there was a woman who had asked him a question at a debate, and he had somehow went on and brought it up on Twitter, and they just attacked the hell out of her to where she went into hiding, and I haven't seen anything about her since. I mean, and then you've got the alt-right who are trying to attack anybody, of course, as we know, anybody in general, who talks about race and ethnicity and the amount of, of course, this is something that I keep bringing up. I'm not hearing anything about it anywhere else, and of course, it directly affects me, so I do talk about it. But the way professors are being attacked and schools not willing to back them up because they don't want the alt-right. And it's not that what they're saying, the professors aren't generally, now I can say a couple of them absolutely deserve to be fired. There's so many of them, and right now you've got the professor watch list where we get put on a list if we say anything that has to do with, anything. I saw one person on there who was on there because she teaches race and ethnicity. I teach race and ethnicity. That's my job. But
now, what about the activists at the moment, or should I say concerned citizens that are getting presents through the post?
Yeah, there have been a few Ferguson protesters I have seen who have posted different... I can retweet one that I have access to, but they're getting letters in the mail. Pretty much, they're intimidation tactics, right? It's nothing different than we've seen in the past. But these are people who really haven't been on the front line in over 2 years. And just yesterday, one got a letter in the mail pretty much saying, everything you do is bad. You're just a waste of humanity. And really what it is it's I know your address. I know where you live. That's pretty much what it was. And then I saw 2 others where they were violent threats. And this was pretty regular during the Ferguson protests and the movement, which lasted well over a year. But the fact that it's just popped up again over the last week is absolutely horrifying to me, as it should be horrifying to everybody.
It is. Just keep strapped all the time because these Nazis are insane. Jeez. You guys, there's something really, really important. I mean, I really want to make sure we talk about it today, if not right now, but before we go, is domestic terrorism. That's an op that I'm like 4,000% with.
Ditto.
Yeah, like I said, I did the show yesterday. We talked about it. I highly encourage everyone to listen to that show because that's from the horse's mouth talking about the op. But for the people here who haven't heard that, what domestic terrorism is, it's an anonymous op that was started in response to these Nazis and the fascists and domestic terror. And they're asking if you see Nazi accounts online or, to send them to the op, to hashtag them with the op, to report them, and they're going to try to take them down. And in yesterday's show, we talked about a lot of ways to deal with these scum in real life and online. So please, please, please do whatever you can do. Get involved with domestic terrorism. Follow the hashtag on Twitter. Follow Anani Info on on Twitter and just really do whatever you can to help with that op, whether it's in real life or online or anything, because we have to stomp these fascists out. It is getting to the point of ridiculousness.
You can follow me on Twitter as well, because I'm tweeting about nothing else at the moment, apart from this show, obviously. But everything that's being shown on the hashtag for domestic terrorism, I'm tweeting out if it's new and relevant. Guys have been sacked. Guys are crying. They've attended a white Nazi rally. They have been filmed on camera. They have been doxxed. They are crying into their privilege. It's absolutely fucking beautiful. There's absolutely no protection afforded to these Nazis whatsoever when they want to destroy entire races of human beings. Now, there's Hitler himself declared the Nazi party or the Nazis in Germany would not have gained power if they would have had a harder fight at the beginning of the genesis of their movement.
Exactly. That's what I tell everybody. We fight them now, or we're going to have to fight them later when they're even more powerful than they already are.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You know, can I make a comparison real quick? Maybe one of you guys, like I said, I'm borrowing a computer lately to do the show on, and it's different than mine, and it's harder for me to deal with finding extra to do searches while I'm running the Spreaker app. But there was a woman, I believe she's from Northern California. She's a teacher at a school, and she's in BAM. And she was in court for pushing and resisting a fascist Nazi. I guess she was in there for assault and some other charges. And she stood up like a true warrior. She said, "Nothing I did is illegal. Fighting fascism isn't illegal." And you know what she wasn't doing? She wasn't crying like, "Boo, I have a warrant for me. I'm so scared for my life." Ugh. You know?
Exactly that. She stood up because they've labelled it Antifa. Okay?
And they make it sound as though it's bad, though. If you say, I love when people are try to say something bad about Antifa.
Oh, so you're not anti-fascist, so that must mean you are pro-fascist. It's one or the other. You're not. I really don't have an opinion on fascism.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity there. There's no middle ground. You're either for fascism or you're an anti-fascist.
I'm just going to see how this one plays out. I may be, I may not be. Let's see how it goes. That's not how it fucking works. Do you support fascism? Yes, you're a Nazi.
I'll just wait and see who wins and then choose my side.
Right.
So, yeah, it's important. The thing is, the 21st century is kicking off pretty much like the 20th century was.
Yeah, it is.
Now, the 20th century was pretty fucking horrific in its early stages. It's all glitter and fucking broadband at the moment, but that's festering movements across the world that are very dangerous. Now, don't underestimate the power that these people have. They put Trump in the White House.
I fully agree, but I also think the Democrats helped put Trump in the White House for giving us no option other than fascism or fascism light, and people already have been dealing with the fascism light. So I guess some of the jackass idiots who didn't think for themselves and didn't realize how racist, bigoted, and jackass, oh my God, what an idiot our president would be if it was Trump. I mean, I don't know, because I wouldn't want either one of those clowns in the White House, and unfortunately we had to have one, and we got this one.
That's the thing. It's nobody thought that clown Trump would get in. That was the misunderstanding. That was the miscalculation everybody made.
You know,
the Democrats made it. The Democrats made it. They didn't go with the movement, the Bernie Sanders growth. Yeah. They discounted that because they stuck with what they knew. That was a mistake.
You know,
Trump, they underestimated the groundswell of people's opinion. because they know better. And that's where everybody has fucking failed.
Well, there was I was watching a roundtable discussion on CNN, and they talked about how, like, a lot of people are really, like I realize, there was that survey, and there's still these people who will support Trump to the end no matter what, but a lot of people have, there are also a lot of people who are just like, this week was like they just can't do it anymore, and the roundtable was over an article or an op-ed that somebody wrote that said, I regret it, or I voted for Trump, I severely regret it now. And, he was saying how he was just shocked by this week and dismayed. And somebody said, I don't understand why there's all of this surprise. The only thing I'm surprised about is that we're just now having this discussion, because Trump signaled all this shit so early on, and I tried to tell people over and over again. I tried to tell family members, I tried to tell friends, look, this guy is, he's not good. You can look in history books where this guy has shown up before, and it's never ended well. And I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around how people are surprised that we're where we're at today.
Me too. One of the first things that he did, by February 1st, the man had taken white extremism off the counterterrorist list. Then by May, he started defunding all the groups, all the grants. And this was public knowledge, all the grants to groups that fought against white extremism. This isn't surprising. This is exactly what he wanted to happen.
I'm hearing a lot of people say that, like prior to this week, they assumed that Trump was just putting up with, white supremacists because they voted for him. A lot of people are looking at that now and coming to the conclusion that we came to when this guy first poked his head out of the sewer, that he is not just putting up with white supremacists because they vote for him. He is a white supremacist, or at the very least, he is a white supremacist sympathizer. He is there to make it easier for white supremacists and for them to advance their genocidal agenda. And
Steve, I'm going to totally agree with you there, but I'm just going to change the terminology slightly. Nazi sympathizer equals Nazi. Nazi would not have been in power if it wasn't for the sympathizers.
Yeah, he not only gave them a pass. I mean, I think there were a lot of people looking and saying, like, I know there were some people who had voted Trump who were like, yeah, he gave Nazis a pass, but we can keep them in check. We need these other things he's talking about, these policies, which of course have not, what turned out to be bullshit too. Most people realize now. People are now realizing that no, he was not just giving Nazis a pass. He has been supporting them. He has been quietly doing stuff that tilt the battlefield in their favor, and it almost worked. It looks like it looks like now, like it might have, backfired. Like the alt-right might have gotten too cocky too soon. Perhaps, we'll see. But, it's all out there now. The man is a Nazi.
Exactly. But then I still see.
Go
ahead.
Well, I gotta finish this, because a lot of people point to his support of Israel and say, well, how can he be a Nazi if he supports Israel? Well, that's really easy, because the government of Israel is not really for the Israeli people. Like, if you look at the people in the government of Israel, they don't really have Israel's best intentions at mind. They're a lot like the people in the government here. They want to hoard all of the resources in their area, within their borders, for themselves, and they're just telling the people that they're supposed to be working for. We're working for you and we're representing your interests, but it's not true. Over here, they're raising the spectacle of, Islamic terror. Over there, they're raising the specter of Palestinian terror and using it to manipulate people. The Israeli government is not for the Israeli people. I will contend the Israeli government is against the Israeli people, and that's why Donald Trump has an easy time supporting the nation of Israel, the government of Israel.
Yeah, but just like here, you got a whole bunch of Nazi-like right-wing people that cheer and say with love from Israel to Palestine on the bombs. I mean, they have a contingent of whack jobs that support this crap in every country. And that's a big problem.
God-fearing fundamentalists, may I add?
It always is, isn't it?
I posed a question to the internet today, and I've been posting it to every Nazi who feels that, the alt-right are just the same as Antifa, or those opposing Nazis are all socialists. Now, there's another thing that was going around earlier, and this was actually born from the alt-right camp, because it's just a massive disinformation shitstorm. The issue that Nazis were socialists. Now, that's complete bollocks. But I posted a question earlier, and nobody has been able to give me an answer. And the question's this. Here's a question for the Make America Great Again crowd. When was America great? The time you hung
1491. We already went over that.
Yeah. But these guys don't remember that. I'm going to the young 2030s crowd that pretend that they love inanimate statues in the middle of the fucking woods or opposite courthouses. The Game Boy Brigade. If they're not masturbating, they're playing games. But all of a sudden, they're interested in culture. Yeah, okay. But yeah, here we go. When was America great? The time you hung African Americans from trees, burning them in cars, when they had to ride separate school buses and use separate wash basins. When is this great period in time that you so crave?
I believe that is the period in time they're looking for.
Exactly. That's exactly what they crave. There's never been a doubt about it.
But they haven't admitted. They won't.
Make America great again always meant to make America white again.
Even though that was never a thing, because it was never completely white.
Exactly.
Ridiculousness of it all.
No, I was going to say, I see a lot on these independent media. I'm using the hand quotes when I say that, because a lot of them have a lot of funding from corporations and pretend to be independent. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff where these people are saying, the Nazis are a joke. This was one I watched earlier today or last night. The Nazis are just a joke. They're a bunch of losers. Just don't even go out and counter-protest them. Let them do their thing, and everyone leaves them alone, and watch how fast they'll go away. What they don't realize is this particular outlet and many others, the people aren't there protesting. What happens? Only the Nazis' voices are heard on mainstream media, because they will all be there.
You're right. The media is really enabling these people, and there are outlets that I used to really like, and I don't anymore, because they have these people on there to spout their views, and they have this idea that, we need to hear both sides of the story, and then we can hear their narrative, and we can, argue it with logic. The Nazis don't appeal to logic. Like, Nazism did not appeal to logic in Germany. It appealed to emotion. So I refute that, and I really look with suspicion on any outlet that has given these white supremacists a platform.
Especially when now, since Charlottesville, they're all like, whoa, this is horrible. But then many, many mainstream and independent have all given these Nazis voices. Richard Spencer, Nathan Domingo, all of these fucks. They've given them all voices, given them shows of their own to millions and millions and millions of viewers. And what happens now? They're like, I don't know how this happened. This is a tragedy. This shouldn't be allowed. but you fed it. You fed the beast.
But let's not forget, it's not just even the mainstream media or even in the independent. I mean, look how many times Weave was given a voice and doing the exact same thing over and over again.
I'd like to jump in on that. I know a little bit about that argument, and you're absolutely right, Gal, in that. I can speak freely on this because it's been posted by the individual himself. But Barrett Brown was horrified that he was lumped into the same category of activism as Weave. He's absolutely detested Weave and all he stands for. And the fact he was in the film, the documentary, The Hacker Wars, Weave didn't really hack shit, and he didn't do it for political and altruistic reasons. Weave should not have been in that fucking film. Barrett Brown's livid on that, and he's posted publicly to say so. Weave is not an activist. Now, I know others that know Weave this week. Fuxnet, who helps admin the Encyclopedia Dramatica IRC, has kicked Weave from there in light of Charlottesville. But you're right, it took something extreme for them to wake up and realise it's the shit. This pot really is boiling. I am that frog in the fucking pot scenario.
You know, I don't consider myself the smartest person in the world, and I could easily see where all this was headed. I saw Charlottesville coming. If I could see it, I'm sorry, but, you know, anybody who takes in information every day that's out there, you know, they should have known to, and I'm not accepting that excuse. And, you know, it like, I've been very vocal from the outset of my love and support for Anonymous, you know, and it used to be like if somebody with a Anonymous profile, you know, hit me up on Twitter, I was like, hey man, you know, glad to hear from you. What do you need? You know, and I was very much about supporting those people, but I noticed there was a thing going on in Anonymous where we had a lot of profiles where you had Knights Templar with Guy Fawkes masks, and you know, you had these so-called Anons supporting the alt-right, and there were so many of them that I'm not comfortable anymore having interactions with Anons that I haven't known for a while, and I know didn't jump on that thing when it happened and go along with that. And so, and I think you know, I think that's probably something that anybody who works with or deals with Anonymous needs to think about. Like, if you don't know who these people are, if you don't see like past tweets and past activity that is specifically fights this shit, the alt-right and stuff, be very wary at this point, because those people are probably changing their tune right now, but they're still around.
Yeah, I'd like to further that as well. What I'd like to say is the way Anonymous works, obviously it can be co-opted, and it has been by the alt-right. Essentially, the Anonymous from the start was a pretty a group of fuckers causing havoc on the internet, but it got political and it was co-opted by the left and by the right. The alt-right have utilised it, and they're still using Poll and on 4chan today. With Occupy, it was different. Occupy knew the dangers of being co-opted. It's like, we're not affiliating ourselves with that group. We're not affiliating ourselves with that party. And it was a complete mistrust of all existing institutions and groups. So it didn't affiliate itself with any political party. It was determined not to be co-opted. Now, that's my experience of Occupy London. You can't do that with Anonymous. So, Steve, you're absolutely right in what you're saying. But what I would like to say this week has been beautiful on the internet with Anonymous and the It's a number of key accounts. I'm not saying it's a complete change in the makeup of Anonymous. There's probably a lot of accounts that are lying quiet and watching to see what happens. But Anonymous has been massively vocal, and they've had massive media positive support this week in light of Charlottesville with Operation Domestic Terrorism. They've made every major newspaper and every news broadcaster that I've read or watched or listened to.
And I'm really glad that's happening, because I really felt
fighting Nazi. Yes.
Yeah, I really felt for a while that, just observing and I make no claims to be a part of that collective or anything like that, so take me as somebody who's just sitting there watching, but it just has seemed to me that there has been a fight for the heart and soul of Anonymous, and to me it's been a pretty blatant attempt by the alt-right to hijack that, and I'm glad the tide has turned this week. But let's all remember those accounts, those people who, I watched people who I really admired, or identities that I really admired in that movement, start spouting this alt-right bullshit, and so those people are still there, and it would do very wise to proceed cautiously when dealing with Anonymous. I myself, unless I know who you are or you're coming from Intel Group, you're going to have to spend some time getting to know me at this point and getting any support or help from me.
You're absolutely right. It's just one of those groups. It's a dangerous environment to be in. I'd like to mention as well. Do you guys remember the Patriot that goes by the name of I Has Candy? The guy that
piece of shit.
Sets up honeypot campaigns. He did it for OpSafe Winter. He did it for Ferguson, collecting IP addresses and sending details of activists to police departments and generally causing fuckery. Yeah, he's doing it. He's up to his old tricks again with opdomesticterrorism.com, just so you know.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, and some accounts that people need to look out for. That's the last My Non-Objective Opinion show we did. I know I keep hyping it. I'm not doing that. I'm saying that because there's a lot of really good information about the op in it and ways that people can get involved. So I highly just recommend you listen to it. Listen to it on Spreaker. Nobody gets paid for that, and we don't get anything for the views or anything. So just listen to it.
Whoa. Wait, Soros is funding us, right?
I would be running away from the show if that. Wait, what?
Hey, did you guys see? I think it was a day or two ago. One of these alt-right Nazi supporting Anons was talking crap about Antifa, and in the rant they said something like, "Let's focus on freeing Jeremy Hammond," and the op Free Jeremy or Free Jeremy Hammond Twitter account came back and was like, "What the fuck? Jeremy Hammond is Antifa. Keep his name out your mouth," basically.
I'd like to mention something as well, exactly on that. There's only a problem in Anonymous, and it's born in the US. And yes, it is alt-right, and all the grief that America has suffered, Anonymous has suffered, and all the grasses and the snitches, they've all been American. It's the American side that's the shit show. So Europe, South America, Asia, they're getting on fucking fine. Everything's working and everyone's doing exactly what they need to. Domestic terrorism is getting great support from Austria and Belgium. Austria, the home of the Nazi, is anti-Nazi.
As they should be. That.
Yes, they should. And anyone that tells you that they need to protect their statues of their Nazi or historic Nazis, ask Germany. They have no statues of Hitler. They're banned.
Yeah, we have statues of every bad person from Columbus on in this country. We celebrate these people.
The capital is Washington. He killed children.
I would just like to put this out there because Top and Tim, you kind of mentioned how there's like honeypot operations and stuff, and there's going to be people for infiltrators trying to mess with domestic terrorism. Proceed. People who want to support that op, proceed cautiously, and remember this: if you are in doubt, there's a Twitter account called at Anani Info, which you can tweet them and ask, "Hey, is this legit?"
And if you
because they're the ones running the op.
If you don't want to tweet, you can go to ananiinfo@riseup.net. and contact them there, and it's a little bit more private as well. There's another option for you.
And their email is on their Twitter profile too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so, anybody who's thinking about supporting that op, just realize, the alt-right tried to hijack Anonymous, and I highly doubt they're going to stop trying. So, if you wonder about something, if you have even a slight suspicion, vet it with that Twitter account.
I'd also jump in and offer my support for that as well. I'm pretty versed in the accounts of Anonymous, and I know who's doing the honeypotting. I know quite a number of trusted accounts because we've interviewed them over the years, and the networks in IRC I'm quite well known in as well. So if you need any advice, if you need any advice on how to just start identifying and searching for Nazis online, give me a shout. It's like Occupy. It's not just for Christmas; it's for life.
Exactly.
Well said. Yeah. And Tim, I know you're pretty knowledgeable about that too, as well. So
probably nowhere as knowledgeable as Top is. I know a lot about it, but just battling Nazis has always been my thing. So
you guys can tweet me too. I don't know why. I just wanted to get my name out there.
St. Louis gal, tweet her. She knows everything.
No, God, no. Oh man, now I'm gonna get tweeted.
Now you're in trouble.
If you have a question about any subject whatsoever,
I'll research
contact
it.
St. Louis gal.
Ask Top. I will research this.
Should be like, give me an hour.
Yep.
Seriously, guys, this is no bullshit. We discussed a number of weeks ago the Grenfell Tower incident. Me and Gal, in the space of an hour, we had it all figured out. We know who to apportion blame to. We knew suppliers of corrupt materials, dangerous materials used in buildings. You name it, we found out within the hour. 2 days before it was even reported in the first newspapers.
That's true.
We like to research. It's our job. And Gal is fucking fantastic.
I am a research nerd. You just ask me to research something, I will find it. If I can, of course.
You guys broke that story like a week before the mainstream even found it. They probably found it from you guys.
I had brought that up because everything that we would say on our personal call, like the next day, somebody would have it in a newspaper. And I'm like, they're listening to us, man.
Yeah, no. It's because we was tweeting it out. Now, I'm followed by certain media groups. We've got one here, the Canary. Now, they actually specified in their article that the materials being used, the contractors involved, etc., and that was come from leaks online. Now, we were the only people that was releasing that information the night before. I know that for a fact. So, a lot of then they start doing their own research, and it wasn't difficult. To be honest, in 15 minutes, we knew who put the cladding on that building. And then once you found out who put the cladding on the building, you can find out who their contractors are. You can find out who their directors are, and the connections just make themselves. It wasn't difficult. I did it I was in the car. I was driving home from a comedy.
Yeah, and you guys already had the chemical data sheets and everything.
We did. Me and Gal didn't know how to find them, but I know a man that did. Can you go and find these for me? 5 minutes later, there's my chemical data sheets. Clearly stating that these were combustible materials that should not have been put on buildings above a certain height. That was on the Wednesday night. The fire happened on the Tuesday.
Imagine how much more they would have got if it happened on a Saturday.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up one thing before we end the show, though. I think there are 18 states, I'm trying to get the actual number, that have actually introduced legislation that would relieve a driver of a car if they were to hit a demonstrator or a protester.
Yeah.
I think this needs to be brought back up again, considering, Charlottesville. I'm trying to find the exact number, but this is something that is horrifying because the overall, you can just look at it and you see where it's just they won't be held accountable for killing people as long as you can prove they were protesting. And that's just despicable and absolutely ridiculous and something that needs to be looked at and brought up over and over again until something's done with it. Because I don't really need to give any reasons why. That just pisses me off.
Well, you're right, and I would say we can at least put part of the blame for that incident with the car and the death and the injuries that resulted from it on this legislation.
Yes.
I'm sure somewhere, at least in the back of his mind, he was like, man, they're making laws to protect people who do this. Fuck this. I'm going to go right through that crowd.
And I'd like to remind everyone as well, that law or legislation, whatever, was brought in because of the Dakota Access Pipeline and no DAPL.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, let's not forget that Tucker Carlson's media outlet as well as Fox News both put out an article and a cool little funny video promoting the murder and slaughter of protesters by car. They took them down after Charlottesville.
Yeah, they did. They took them down pretty fast once, but of course, I think it was a news source had grabbed it.
So yeah, this is something they condone.
I reckon it'll be a crying shame if somebody reposted them and kept reposting them.
Oh, they've been being reposted nonstop.
They've been going up nonstop. But I just, Tucker Carlson, Fox News, this is partially their fault for even just putting that idea in such a whimsical way in everybody's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Tucker Carlson, there is a special place in hell for you when you die, fucker.
Even though he's been on ABC, he's been on MSNBC, and he's been on CNN. He came from
CNN.
Yes, that the crosstalk. And I would like to say this because I had this realization this morning. If Hillary Clinton had won the election, there would be no talk of impeachment. And that is about as terrifying a thought as you can have. Because neither of those two people should have ever been allowed to run, ever won a primary. Granted, Hillary didn't win fairly in the primary, ever won an election. And, of course, Trump didn't really win the election. And one of them became president, and one of them was going to become president once they, quote unquote, won their primary.
They were the pair of the most unpopular presidential candidates ever. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, it depends on which media you look at.
That shows you how bad she is, because one, she was the first lady for 8 years for one of the most popular presidents of all time. She was senator of one of the most popular states in the country, and she was the Secretary of State to one of the most popular presidents of all time. And yet, people still hate her, and her biggest crimes are still hidden.
Yep.
And she's Donald Trump's friend.
Back to that. That's the case. People need to realize.
Yeah.
I'd like to
I want to make sure I get this in before we're done. There is a big takeaway from Charlottesville that I have watched some people, their eyes. But this is to me, this is the big takeaway from Charlottesville. I attended a, anti-Nazi rallies, and it was a vigil for Charlottesville over here in Wichita. And here in Kansas, we have a news outlet that is incredibly legit. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Daily Haze at all, or if you follow that one. If you don't, definitely check it out. And the guy who runs that his name is Miko Hayes. And like, you want to talk about like what a journalist is supposed to do, is that he spoke at this thing, and he said, after the civil rights movement, the Klan and Nazis, they took off their robes and their armbands and they put on suits and badges. And we now see that definitely happened. And what's really important here going forward is that we do not say, oh, this sucked and, whatever, thoughts and prayers. No, we need to hold accountable the people in our institutions who enabled this quietly. Because if you really take a look, you can see who did and who didn't. It's not that hard. And those people they must be held accountable. People in our law enforcement, people in our city governments, people in our state governments, people in our federal government. It is really time to start calling these fuckers out. That's like the big takeaway for me from Charlottesville. That these people embedded themselves, and we have to pull them out. And it's going to be a painful process, but we need to.
I agree.
I'm just getting news in, guys, and I'm not sure it's from a reputable source, but DHS finally declare Antifa a terrorist organisation. Is that bollocks or?
I hope.
Can you repeat that again?
I know they've been trying to do it for a while, but I doubt they may have. Who knows? But I don't think so.
Who?
DHS.
I was like, DFS.
Department of Homeland Security is trying to.
Yeah, that was reported this morning that they were going to. Let me go see if they actually did. But I wouldn't be sure.
I saw a similar article a month ago, and it turned out to be bullshit.
That's what I was thinking.
I think there's there's a lot of like right-wing news that is fake. They have these stories that you go online for 5 minutes and you debunk. And I think that was the case a month ago. It's probably the case now.
Yeah.
That's just bullshit.
There's nothing up on that from the DHS website or anything that will actually accurately report on it.
Yeah, it's a little hard to call an organization that has no dead bodies, that fights an organization that has dead bodies under their belt, to call them an organization before you call the organization they're fighting a terrorist organization. It's just kind of like a precursor, you think. You'd say, hey, the guys with the body count should be terrorists before the guys with absolutely zero body count.
Yeah.
And if they did it, and I guarantee you, if Antifa did a terrorist attack, it would be just on Nazis. No innocent people would get hurt.
I'm going to play. I got some audio to play on Sunday, guys. I implore you to watch Top Gear Live on Sunday.
How do you watch a radio show, sir?
Stare at the screen while it's playing.
Okay.
Yeah. Vice had an undercover lady, an undercover reporter, young lady with the alt-right Nazis on the Friday before Charlottesville violence terrorist attack occurred. And there's some interesting audio of the Nazis absolutely shitting themselves that Antifa were on their way. You can hear them scrambling to get in the van and the panic in their voices. I've got it all on audio. I'm going to be playing it Sunday. These guys are fucking pussies.
Yeah, I think that was from a previous rally. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's an older video, but it is. No,
this one came out on Friday.
Oh, the one I'm talking about.
From the Cheeky Torches.
Oh, the one I was talking about. I seen a while back. They were running from like high school kids, and
I remember that one.
It was so funny. These big tough Nazis, high school kids are throwing things at them. They're like, "Oh, we got to get out of here!"
And when we talk about Charlottesville, everybody, of course, thinks of Saturday, and I hear people say before the violence on Saturday, there was violence Friday night by the large group of Nazis that were marching through University of Virginia, spitting on the students. They threw lighter fluid on a woman in a wheelchair and set their tiki torches next to her, trying to catch her on fire. And the police didn't do a damn thing. And then on Saturday morning, the violence went on for an hour before the fucking cops even showed up. And Revolutionary Z had that all on his stream for an hour before anything. And as we talked about on this show last Friday, when we were on air, I had announced that they had just broke the news that they had already called in the National Guard. Did you see the National Guard at all on Saturday? Because we know for a fucking fact they were called in. Yet all of that violence was still able to occur.
Okay, first thing, the night before with the tiki torches, they had beaten some students and they also sprayed them with tear gas or mace as well. And the cops were 10 feet away and didn't do anything. There was a lot of live streams that show this. And yeah, the National Guard was like a few blocks away somewhere just chilling. I've seen pictures of it.
And then with the actual Nazis like ramming into the fucking riot police, and they didn't do a damn thing. And I want to give Revolutionary Z a shout out on that, because he stood there and he called their asses out for that, saying, I have been to protests for the last 5 years. You would have never done this with, I mean, he is screaming at the top of his lungs. And you guys were talking about something earlier about how the media isn't calling it, they aren't comparing it to ISIS and, with ramming the vehicles. And I want to give Z props there too, and I can get you the videos where he went on both MSNBC and Fox News, let him on the air. Fucking Fox let him on the air, and Good Morning America, and that's exactly what he fucking stated on national television. He at least did that. I'm not saying anybody else did, but I've got the videos for all of them. Yeah. And
they'll be going out as soon as we're off this radio broadcast. They'll be going out. Follow the hashtag #OpDomesticTerrorism. We'll be showing you exactly the violence that Donald Trump is protecting. Your chief, commander-in-chief, is protecting Nazis conducting violence and spitting against students and trying to set fire to women in wheelchairs. I posted on Friday. Is this what Nazis were about? Is this the alt-right? Is this your freedom of speech? Is it by attacking women in wheelchairs? I was posting this on Friday. But yeah, domestic terrorism. We're going to show you exactly what these fucking clowns are all about.
Definitely domestic terrorism. Follow them. Follow the hashtags. Follow Anani Info on Twitter. Just get involved. Follow Top. You know what I mean? Follow us all. Follow everybody that has the hashtag. Just make sure you're not following any bad actors. But one more thing.
Set up TweetDeck and do a search on TweetDeck for domestic terrorism and just watch the stream. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and one more thing. Steve, Gal, and I are next week. We're going to have a 14-part miniseries about the 14 tenets or characteristics of fascism and how they pertain to the United States, how many are valid in the United States currently, and kind of what we're looking at. And it also gives people who are always like, what is fascism exactly? We're going to tell you pretty much exactly what it is. 14 episodes. They're all between 15 and 30 minutes each. They're not really long, so I would really recommend everybody give it a listen if you can. Anything else from anybody?
I'll end with this. As evil and demonic as the alt-right and the GOP and the conservatives are and Trump is, let's not forget that when the Dems are in power, we still have an endless amount of problems. And when the GOP is in power, the Dems help put them there. Kamala Harris got $4,000 from Ivanka Trump when she trying to become a U.S. Senator. Of course, she is now U.S. Senator. And I will quickly name this. These are Democratic members of Congress, and the number of times they voted for a Trump appointment earlier this year. Gillibrand once, Bernie Sanders twice, Liz Warren twice, Kamala Harris 3 times, Hirono 4 times, Al Franken 4 times. Ha ha ha! He's so funny. Feinstein 5 times. Tim Kaine would have been the vice president if Hillary had won 5 times.
Yep. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
you know.
Oh, there we go.
No, I'm good. This has been awesome as always. I fucking love you guys. This is becoming my favorite part of the week. So
Cool.
Always
So
an honor, gentlemen and gal. Gal and gentlemen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm always going to be in the car on the way for the first 20 minutes or so, but
well, if there's one thing, I mean, we got a good thing going here. If there's one thing we can change and make it a positive, more women on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, Gear should be on next week, I think she said, so that'll be good. She's just been working on the schedule, her schedule changed. That's why she hasn't been on a lot of shows. And Glenn, I know he's not a woman, but he's another host on the show. He's on vacation, as he told us last week.
For a month. We have no Glenn for a month.
Yeah. We miss you already, Glenn, if you ever hear this. I know right now you're with pina coladas on a beach or something. So, yeah, I guess I'm going to say let's leave everybody with Op Domestic Terrorism. Follow them, join them, support them. Punch as many Nazis as you can. Death to Nazis. And support your local anti-fascists.
They're everywhere. They're easy to find. And somebody posted a meme earlier. I found a perfect Nazi fascism finding tool. It's called Facebook. Your friends and family are Nazis, and you just have to watch their posts. Call them out. Tell them they're fucking Nazi. Watch them defriend you quicker than they can blink because they got no arguments to support why they are Nazi.
Exactly. And on that note, are we ready to end?
Indeed.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. See y'all next week.
Peace out.